Hello, and welcome to From Ashes to Action, the Anglican Union's Lenten podcast series. Today is the fourth Sunday in Lent, and our speaker is Richard Lamb from Resurrection Parish Oratory in Odessa, Florida.
Today's reading comes from the Gospel of St. Luke, starting in the 15th chapter, verses 11 through 32. The parable of the prodigal son. In this passage, Jesus tells us of a father with two sons. The younger son asks his father to give him his inheritance early. Basically, he's saying, I can't wait for you to die, Father. Give me the share of property that's coming to me now. The father lovingly complies and gives his younger son his share of the inheritance. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So Jesus tells us he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. Now keep in mind that pigs are considered the dirtiest of animals in the Jewish culture. The son was starving. He was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. When he finally hit rock bottom, he cried out, How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread? But I perish here with hunger. I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and he went to his father. Now Jesus tells us that when the son was still a long way off, his father saw him. Now this only happens if the father is daily scanning the horizon for his long-lost son. When the father saw his son, he felt compassion, and he ran and embraced him and he kissed him. The son said to the father, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But before the son could finish speaking, the father was already instructing his servants. Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet. And bring the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this is my son who was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found. And they began to celebrate. This reflects God's boundless patience, his love, and his mercy towards us. We're reminded in Luke chapter 15, verse 4, Jesus says, What man among you, if he has 100 sheep and loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the pasture and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? Or the parable of the barren fig tree in Luke 13, where the vine dresser pleads for the life of the barren fig tree, asking just one more chance for the tree to bear fruit, telling the master, Sir, let it alone for one more year until I dig around it and add nourishment to the soil. If it should bear fruit next year, well and good, but if not, cut it down. But the parable doesn't end with the redemption of the younger son. When the older son comes in from the field and draws near to the house, he hears music and dancing. And he calls out to one of the servants and asks, What is this? And the servant said to him, Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But the older son was angry and refused to go in. Now his father came out and asked him to come in. But he answered his father and said, Look, these many years I've served you. I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him. And he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that I possess is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead, and now is alive. He was lost, and now is found. So it's easy to see ourselves as the prodigal son. We vainly believe that we too would make all the right decisions, that we'd come to our senses, they would ask God to forgive us and then start taking advantage of God's grace and mercy. But once forgiven, do we show the same mercy? Do we feel the same empathy? Do we give the same grace? Or do we find ourselves like the Pharisees and judge and condemn others who are in sin? Are we like the whitewashed tombs in Matthew 23? We have fresh paint on the outside with a rotting corpse on the inside. and more interested with keeping the law than spreading the gospel? The Beatitudes in Matthew 5, verse 7 remind us that blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. As you participate in the Holy Eucharist this Lenten season, pray the prayer of humble access with new fervor, with a new yearning. Cry out to God in humility, saying, "We do not presume to come to this thy table, O merciful Lord, trusting in our own righteousness, but in thy manifold and great mercies. We are not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under thy table, but thou art the same Lord whose property is always to have mercy. Grant us therefore, gracious Lord, so to eat the flesh of thy dear Son, Jesus Christ, and to drink his blood, that our sinful bodies may be made clean by his body, and our souls washed through his most precious blood, and that we may evermore dwell in him, and he in us. Amen."